right, let's welcome in our guests, Brook and Robin Lopez. Fellas, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, where are the two of you? We were talking about this just a second ago, but it seems to me, based on the decor of your backgrounds, that you're not currently in the same place.
No. No. I'm in Southern California. I don't know where the other guy's at, honestly.
That's what he wants you to think. I'm just on the other side of the house.
I love it. It's been a great summer for both of you guys. I want to get to both of you. So, Brook, obviously you are coming off a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. What has your last month of your life been like? Have you done anything to celebrate other than, I assume, go to Disneyland?
Yeah. You picked the right thing immediately. I know you said other than, but the first thing I made sure to do was ride Splash Mountain. And I got out to Disneyland and absolutely did that. But it's honestly it's been crazy. It's been like a dream. It's been very surreal. This is what you work out for every single day. What you do, traveling team basketball, college basketball, like all kind of leading up to that, right? So it's definitely been a dream experience. So I've been trying to just soak that all up and enjoy it with my friends and family.
I love that. And Robin, you signed with the Orlando Magic on a 1-year deal. There's already been a bunch of articles about you going to Disney World there. It's a match made in heaven or whatever. I have a serious question for both of you, and just sort of when this sort of obsession with Disney started, and also how many times each of you have been to Disneyland and Disney World.
I don't know if I have a count on how many times. I know we try to go to before COVID, we tried to go to all the international parks at least once every summer. Disneyland, we frequented Disneyland as kids because we grew up in North Hollywood in Southern California. Our family, we've always loved comic books, animation, things like that. And I think what really made the fandom grow was having a twin brother and living in the same room and enjoying exactly the same things. I mean, we bounced it off each other so much that I think it seemed normal to us at the time.
Did you guys have a thing when you were growing up that was above everything else in terms of what you were most obsessed with?
That I would say it would be our Disney fan. That would be number one.
It was all Disney, everything, every Disney.
That'd be number one for us. Yeah. Are you saying a specific Disney thing?
Yeah, like a specific Disney thing, like a thing that was just sort of like on a pedestal compared to all of the other characters or all the other films or everything like that.
I think for me, the parks have always been our favorite.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just going to ask you if, like, when you signed with Orlando, like, you know how some guys in their contract have like stipulations about staying under a certain weight, or, you know, they look into guys obviously personalized, maybe like drinking, I don't know, whatever. But with you, did they talk about like, hey, you can't go to the park every single day, or they kind of trusted you enough? I don't think they should trust you.
I think it's a test of fortitude, if anything.
Like, they have some of these guys, like, they're worried about them, you know, like ODing and dying with like hookers and stuff like that and everything like that. Like, Robin's going to be strung out on sugar and around like Disney characters with like skipping practice or something, right?
We only skipped practice for Disneyland once, and that was your idea, I think.
No, that did not happen. Please tell me that didn't happen.
You really turned this around on me really quick, Robin. I regret bringing all this up right now.
Wait, I have a question. Do the parks give you guys, do they give you like special treatment when you go? Do they know you're coming, or do you just show up?
No special treatment. I'm a member of Club 33, the secret quote unquote club at Disneyland.
Anymore, Robin, way to go.
I know. It's
some secret we once had.
Yeah, they're gonna break my knees now. But I like going. If I can, I like going just experiencing it as a regular guest, just the way I did when I was younger.
You like to stand in line for hours at a time. Then that's your thing. That's the experience.
Hey, that's the important part too. Yeah.
I actually, so I planned a Disney trip. My now 7-year-old and 5-year-old turned those ages last week, and we had planned this trip to Disney World in Orlando, and we had called ahead, got the VIP tour, done the whole thing. We were gonna like skip the line, all that stuff. And yes, like I feel bad about it. Yes, I feel bad that we were gonna do that. Unfortunately, my wife and I both got COVID, so we weren't able to make the trip. And we were quarantined for like 10 days, which sucked. But I have a very serious question for future reference. So in Orlando, of any of the parks, any of the rides, I'm interested to hear your top 2 rides, both of you guys.
In Orlando, off the top of my head, I'm going to go with Tower of Terror and then Spaceship Earth at Epcot.
Yeah, I would pick Splash Mountain again, obviously, and Magic Kingdom would be my 1. And then I'd say either they're both studios attractions, Tower of Terror or the new Star Wars attraction, Rise of the Resistance, are both incredible. You can't go wrong with either of those.
The Star Wars thing was the thing that I was most looking forward to. I tried to explain to my 7-year-old what the Tower of Terror was. He was not interested at all in participating in that ride, so we weren't going to do that. You guys mentioned comic books, and I know you recently released your first manga called Transition Game. Explain to the listener, the viewer, what manga is, and about your specific comic book that you just came out with.
So manga, in its simplest explanation, it's a Japanese comic book made in Japan. The idea behind our story is a kid who's entering high school. He plays AAU basketball in Germany. His mother gets transferred to Japan, a small island in Japan, and he has to make the adjustment, the transition, if you will, to living on an island across the world. And there is an island where basketball, it's a little different than what he's been experiencing in Europe.
Did you guys draw on any personal experiences when you were writing this comic?
We did. Little things like just the grind of AAU basketball, travel team basketball. But I think it's really a universal experience. That's something that we've always wanted to harp on. I think any athlete can pick it up and relate to a lot of what's going on.
Tommy, I know that you have a sister, right? You do not have a brother.
2 sisters, no brothers.
2 sisters, no brothers. I have older twin sisters, and I know sort of all about sibling rivalries from watching them. My brother and I, we really don't have one, but I understand that. I was thinking about this, and I don't mean to bring this up in like a sore way, Robin, but like you were on the Bucks last year. I know from personal experience, it's very hard to root for the team that you just left. And on top of that, your twin brother is on the Bucks. Were you 100% happy to see the Bucks win this year, or was part of you a little jealous?
I didn't watch the playoffs after we lost. I didn't watch that game. I watched Paddington.
Wait, 1 or 2?
Both of them.
Okay.
It was a double feature.
I got it.
So you didn't watch any of the playoffs?
Not after we lost, no.
That's your answer. That's your answer.
Brooke, have you brought it up with Robin at all? The championship?
No,
have you guys had a discussion about it at all?
I haven't. I've tried to be the good guy about it. I know he has to hear about things like that. You mentioned sibling rivalry. It's not really a thing for me. It's something I worry about because I'm the successful twin. So,
I'm talking about white collar versus blue collar.
Right. Okay.
I'm not putting anybody's fucking personal business out there that's not already out there. But Robin, this is the second time you brought this up. So your career earnings as of today are like $92 million, and you just signed a $7.5 million contract. So you're basically at 100 sticks. 100 sticks in an NBA career. You've done all right for yourself. And Brooke, like to your point, man, like he's like to call him unsuccessful is just erroneous. The guy's clearly not a deadbeat. I mean, come on.
We needed a mediator like you our whole lives. That's what we've been missing.
JJ is clearly a good parent. That's what I've heard from this. JJ has great parenting skills.
When you guys were growing up, how long did you share a room for?
Oh, as long as we lived at our parents' house, all the way to high school.
Did you have any like blowout fights when you were like in middle school or high school that you weren't sure you're going to be able to get over quick?
Not blowout. When we fought, like either verbally or when it rarely was physically, I guess that'd be more like wrestling or anything like that. We would fight, and then like 10 minutes later, it's kind of like that brother sibling thing where you're just back to hanging out. I do remember one time, and we had bunk beds. I was on the top bunk. Robin was bottom bunk.
We did not have bunk beds in high school. I want to clarify that. As amusing as that would sound, we did not have bunk beds in high school.
Good save, idiot. Good save. But I remember being up on my bunk bed. I remember vividly. And I don't know, I must have been like getting mad at Robin or yelling at him or something like that. But I do remember Robin like punching me in the face. It's like I was on the bunk bed, I was laying down, like looking over whatever bar or anything on the bed, just talking. And I must have been talking to a lot of ish or something like that. And he just hit me in the face. Like we're just talking and he just hit me. And it totally like shocked me and surprised me. But I guess that's the kind of guy he is, who would just sucker punch someone.
I'm certain it was warranted, whatever it was. I can't remember now.
I mean, it wasn't even the actual hit that hurt. It was just like, wow, you actually hit me, Robin. What was that?
Which one of you guys is older?
I am by a minute.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I've seen enough of this in my life. I know exactly what this is. Brook, I wanted to sort of touch on your trade from the Nets to the Lakers in a little bit. But during this run, did beating the Nets in the conference semifinals, did that mean anything extra to you? I think you're still the all-time leading scorer in franchise history. I have no idea if you were sort of blindsided by the trade or if you knew it was coming when you got traded to the Nets for Timothy Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell. But did it mean anything extra to you to beat them in the playoffs?
It was special for me. I enjoyed my time being in New Jersey and Brooklyn. I still have a few really good friends on that team. And it was an incredible, fun series. They had a lot of talented guys on that team. So it definitely was special playing them in the playoffs and beating them in the playoffs. In terms of being blindsided by the trade, it caught me a little off guard. It did. My agent had told me, like, you hear from the GMs and everything like that, like, oh no, we're not trading you. We want you to be around the young guys, blah, blah, blah. We want you in. But at the same time, my agent was like, oh, I heard from, and I can't remember the exact teams. I heard from Charlotte. They were shopping you around, stuff like that. So I had a little bit of an idea. I was hopeful, but, I guess it was my first time being traded. So when, I still got that call, it did like catch me off guard a little, but from the tone immediately, right? Like from the tone when you get the call, like what's going down.
When you went to LA and subsequently your time in Milwaukee, like this, it's really fascinating to me. This has been talked a lot on the interweb, on national broadcasts. Like this is something that's talked a lot about. And I wanted to get your perspective on this, but you essentially went from a low post, high usage player when you were in Brooklyn that drew a lot of fouls. And then you go to LA, your minutes go down. I think you averaged like 23 minutes that year. And then you essentially changed your game, and you can still mash on the block still, but you essentially are a floor spacing five who does a bunch of things well. You're a great offensive rebounder, one of the best in the league, other than Robin. And, I just, the change is fascinating to me. And I'm very curious about that sort of transition year when you were in Los Angeles and you were changing roles, and then how that sort of helped you when you got to Milwaukee.
Yeah. That's, that bringing up that transition years. I think it's something I often overlook myself, and how important it was to me becoming the player that I am now. It was I loved playing with the guys on my team. There were good guys in the coaching staff, great, organization, GMs, everything like that. But it was a tough year for me personally, just because it was an adjustment. I was used to playing 30, 40 minutes a game, and then going into the situation where it's, obviously they had tons of talented young guys. You look at their roster that year with like Brandon, Julius, Zoe, Josh Hart, like all these guys. And I'm JC, I could keep going. They had a lot of talented young guys, and these guys are successful in the league now, all-stars, 6th man of the year, stuff like that, everything like that. So it was an adjustment for me coming in, and not necessarily getting the minutes I was used to getting. And on top of that, it kind of, I guess, made me kind of figure out, what my role is with that team. And I had to find a way to transition my game to fit into that role and deal with that. It was the first time really, I guess, playing basketball that I dealt with a sort of adversity like that on a personal level. And so it was very good for me to experience that, and have to fight through that. And, I did learn to change my game, adjust to the new NBA, and get used to playing in a more supporting role than I normally have, which I think is something that has helped me in my time in Milwaukee. But again, like that year in LA, I had a great time playing with my teammates, playing with all those young guys I mentioned before, playing for Luke, Miles, Mad Dog, all those guys. It was a great year and a great experience.
Did you change anything technically about your shot?
I didn't going into that year. It was actually something, and I've said this before in other interviews, that Kenny Atkinson just wanted me to get up more threes in that system. He brought that system over from Atlanta, Bud system. And he just wanted me to space the floor and shoot more threes. And so it wasn't really changing my shot. And I guess for me, especially coming to Milwaukee, where you mentioned, JJ, just playing, I guess, not necessarily less minutes in Milwaukee, but having the ball in your hands less, right? Having the ball in your hands less. And this is something you're one of the greatest ever at doing, JJ, is just being ready at all times to catch and shoot, regardless of the rhythm of the game, whether you're in a flow, whether you've gotten shots up or anything like that, just being ready to catch and shoot. That was the biggest adjustment for me, because growing up, high school level, college level, a lot of my years in the league, I'd always been able to just score on the low block, get a shot up, and if it didn't go in, all right, it's coming right back like the next play. But that was a big adjustment for me to learn to be ready in those moments when the ball would come to me. And that's obviously what's best for the team, to catch and shoot, regardless of how I've been playing.
Yeah, I've never been the number one option on offense like you were in Brooklyn. I've been I've been a role player
Right.
throughout my career, and I feel like on certain teams I've starred in that role and been pretty good. Robin, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because you're someone who's had a ton of different roles in the NBA. I think you just signed with your 8th team in your career. I played for 6 and 15 years, so I've hopped around a bit too. But can you just talk about just the challenges of that year to year? Going from a young player in Phoenix who didn't play a lot initially to then playing really well in the playoffs, and then becoming a full-time starter, and then being a spot starter, and then being a full-time starter. It seems like throughout your career, you've always had to adjust. And as Brook mentioned, like, to me, basketball is all about rhythm. And so I think it's really challenging game to game, season to season, whatever it may be, in sort of catching that rhythm when your role's constantly changing.
It's definitely interesting. when you get to a new team, especially with younger guys, like last year in DC, I anticipate this year in Orlando a little bit, people are still kind of figuring it out. And even though you know what you can do well, people are still getting accustomed to that, figuring out what you can do. And you kind of figure what you got to do for each team. Last year in Washington, I was really heavy posting up on the block. I figured out my role was coming in on the second unit and being a threat, scoring on the block. Other teams, being in Milwaukee, I figured out that I was out there to play defense and spot up in the corner. It can take a little bit. It can take a few weeks. It can take maybe sometimes a couple months to figure out what it is exactly that team needs from you.
There was I don't know if it was a full season, but there was definitely a season under Jim Boylan, I think, in Chicago, where you were featured heavily in the post.
I think those may have been like in the last those were in the last 2 or 3 months when we had a rash of injuries.
Yeah.
And I think Zach was playing here. Zach Levine was playing here and there. And if I can, I'm going to run into as many pick and rolls as possible. Or somebody like that, that's definitely a thing that can happen. But there are times where, I would have to go root myself on the block and then figure something out in the last 2 months of that season.
This brings me to a question that I have for both of you guys. Is there a specific move that the other person has mastered? And I have two very specific moves in my mind of what those moves are. But is there a specific move that the other brother has mastered that you wish you had in your game?
I can think of two things with Robin off the top of my head. And Robin has somehow, and I don't know, because we work out a ton together and we've worked out our whole lives together. At some point, Robin developed a lefty hook and I have no left hand. I don't know how that happened. And so that's one thing off the top of my head. But the other is, and I know you had to have seen this at some point playing Robin, JJ, is Robin going right and pump faking and then pivoting and pump faking and pivoting again and again. Yeah, again, and just finally getting back to that right shoulder and still getting the hook off somehow.
I think for Brook, the first thing that comes to mind, because he is so right-handed dominant, is he doing that LaMarcus Aldridge, James Harden, right-hand rip-through? Yeah, exactly, to get the foul.
Well, you guys clearly know each other's signature moves. That's the thing. It's funny because, I mean, you guys came in 2008, right? You guys were the 2008 draft.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 13 years of watching scouting videos on both of you, and you guys nailed it. Like when you guys come up on the scouting video, they're going to show a clip of Brook sweeping through on the block. Keep your hands back. Keep your hands back. And then they're going to show a clip of Robin, and they're going to say he's going to get to his left shoulder right hook. It's going to happen no matter what. And sure enough, as Brook described, it could be 2-3 pivots. He's coming back to that right hand. I fucking love that you guys know
I'm
that.
using up all 3 seconds. I'm using up all 3 seconds if I get the tunes.
That was one of the things I enjoyed most playing with Robin the year we played together, was watching with my teammates on the bench. Like I'd be sitting next to Wesley Matthews and Giannis and his brother. And we just couldn't believe how many times he would pump fake and pivot. And we would just be laughing on the bench. But he would always get back there and score. It was like, what is the defender doing? The defender literally could just be standing there like, all right, you do whatever you want, Rob. I'm just going to block you when you come back around the 8th time. But we would laugh because it would work every time too somehow.
What was your first matchup like when you guys first played each other in the league?
The one thing that sticks out for me, I remember Terry Porter telling me the second they put Brook in the game, I'm sending you to the scorer's table. I remember that. Shaq was one of the vets. Shaq had a bet about who was gonna score more, I think. That was really fun, especially early on for the vets, betting which one of us would score more. It would always be Brook, but it would always be Brook because Brook's the scorer. but that was definitely something that always went on our teams.
Yeah, I remember vividly. Neither of us are starting yet, and so I remember running to the scorers table to check in, and then your coach like turned around and pointed at the bench and immediately had you check in too. And then
no, that's what it was. Because I played with Vince too, but it was Shaq. Shaq was on my team, and Vince was on your team, right? You had Vince, and they made a bet with each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what it was.
And we were out there, two rookies, maybe like 10 games in, like playing hard, like trying to be great, trying not to make fools of ourselves.
In the Meadowlands.
Everyone else out on the floor, on the bench and everything like that was just laughing at us. Like, what is going on? Like the refs were just letting us play. They weren't calling any fouls out there. They were probably hacking each other, everything.
Were you guys yapping at each other or not really?
No. That's the thing. We don't talk to each other we don't really talk off, which is probably why we have problems. But we don't talk to each other on the court, but our teammates love talking trash. They love talking trash for us. They absolutely just adore it. And it like feeds them. And when one of us will score on the other, they absolutely will like take that chance to rub it in the other's face.
Well, you have to think how many games there are in a season, how long a season can be. And as opposed to like a faceless game in Minnesota in January on the end of a back-to-back, I think it's got to be a little fun for them. A little something extra, I think.
Playing a full season with you would be long. It is. I only did it once.
I'm actually very curious about that. What was it like to be teammates in the NBA?
Well, I mean, that's not a good start, Robin. You can think of anything to say immediately. That's pretty negative.
I enjoyed myself.
No, I did. It was fun. It was good. The one thing, we couldn't live together. Our cats, they didn't get along, so we couldn't live together. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This doesn't happen for everyone. We've been in the league for 11 years at that point. Since our 12th year in the league, it's like, we got to live together. We got to be able to hang out all the time. We haven't been able to hang out in a decade, really, like every single day like we used to. Let's do this. But our cats could not get along, and they still cannot get along. They shut it down.
So they just, because I'm curious, like that would have been, it could have been like Step Brothers, like you just put cameras in the house and you never know what's going to happen.
It probably actually turned out to be a good thing because, we talk bad about each other a lot, but we wouldn't have been productive if we were living together. We would not have been productive at all. We would have been watching cartoons at like 4 a.m. and then like sleeping in and skipping practice. This is a theme I keep bringing up. And just not doing work and being productive.
What I love about that anecdotal story is that in the NBA you don't have roommates because we're all white collar. Let's be honest, Robin. Here we're all white collar. And the one chance that an NBA player has to room with another NBA player, it's because the cats don't get along. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Prince Edward is very particular. He really only gets along with me.
Wait, how many pets do you guys have? Just cats, or do you have dogs too?
Well, I have two dogs as well. Muppet and then Mimi, named after Mariah Carey.
I got one cat and a dog, a long-haired Dalmatian named Lando, like Lando Calrissian.
The references are just perfect. They're perfect. Robin, I got to ask you, you've been asked about this a million times, but I think it's just important that we touch on something that you're famous for, which is harassing and fighting mascots. How did this start? How did it evolve? When did you realize you had a problem with harassing mascots?
So I inherited the beef, actually. I came to Detroit one night with Hooper, the Pistons mascot, and he came after me because he got stomped out by Brook, Andre Blatch, and the rest of the Brooklyn Nets earlier that season.
You inherited the beef.
I inherited some kind of blood feud, and it's continued to this day ever since. But it's funny because I can actually really trace it back to maybe third or fourth grade. I went to a Santa Clara basketball game.
Oh, right. I forgot about this.
And Thunder was the Warriors mascot at that point, like this blue guy in spandex with a lightning bolt on his head. And he was signing autographs, and he asked for my name. And I had a speech impediment, so I said Wobbin instead of Robin.
He had speech class all growing up from like kindergarten to like 5th grade.
So I said Wobbin, and he signed it to Robin. Where's the W? So I like to give that as my formal origin of the beef against mascots.
That's so mean.
Thunder was kind of a jerk. He was. He signed mine. It said he signed his picture to me. To Brook. Isn't that a girl's name? Like, who does that? Like, these are little kids. Like, these are like just going for the jugular.
We need to find out who the actual person that this guy was, and we're gonna track him down, and we're gonna write a mean letter to him. You guys have to know this, like that. You guys know this by now, but like the NBA is as much entertainment as anything, and I feel like you guys have bought into that, whether it's attacking mascots or doing pregame wrestling moves with Giannis, whatever it may be. One of my favorite stories I've ever heard from about either of you actually happened on the Long Shot Pod with Duncan Robinson, who told an amazing story about Robin. It was during, I think the Wizards were like the last team to let fans in the arena. Because I was there in like April with the Mavs, and you guys still didn't have any fans in the arena. And he said that Tyler Hero drew a foul. He's getting ready to shoot the free throw. The arena's dead silence. And you said, Robin, quote, "This league is full of theatrics and thespians. Several of you are worthy of Oscar-level performances for what you've done tonight. You should all be embarrassed, all of you embarrassed." Is there truth to this story? Did that actually happen?
There is. I think I didn't just say Oscar. I think I said he deserves a BAFTA, which is a British film award.
Tyler here is not even British, though.
Yeah,
they're for everybody. They're inclusive.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my god!
Is this something you do often? Just the outburst of it was a lot of people called it like Stanford level trash talk. Is this basically the baseline of what your trash talk sounds like?
I try to stay witty.
It is, Rob. It is. We would sit on the bench, and I discovered this the year we played together. It was good we played together because I learned a lot of things about him. And he loves using like what was it, like $10 words or whatever. Like he loves using big words in the middle of a game during an outburst at a ref or a player. He'll say something, and it's almost like he's not really concerned with getting his point across. He just wants to impress that other person with his vocabulary.
I'm not sure that half of America knows what a thespian is. You know what I mean?
I don't want to say it's the baseline. I want to say that's one of the better ones. So I'm not going to say that's the baseline. Okay. That's the only reason I'm refraining from saying that.
Do you have other examples of this you can remember?
I don't. He just again, like I remember Wes Matthews, and Robin and Wes are great friends, teammates from back in Portland. But Wes gives Robin a lot of crap and always does. And so we would just sit on the sideline and sit on the bench and be like, what is this guy saying to the ref right now? Like, he's not like most guys, like I just throw curses out and it doesn't really help. You know, you're supposed to talk to the guy and everything, but it feels good and then it's done. But Robin, I guess the way he gets off, he gets his jollies, you know, like handling these bad foul calls and everything, is he talks down to the person in a way that's just going to go right over the guy's head and everyone else's head that hears him. And then, I don't know, he just keeps playing. I guess it's a coping device. I don't know.
Catching that first wave, spending your first night camping under a starry sky, there's no better feeling. Which is why I'm excited for the first ever Hyundai Santa Cruz, built to help you on the journey to all of your first. As Hyundai's first sport adventure vehicle, Santa Cruz combines the comfort of an SUV with the versatility of an open bed. It has useful features like an easy-to-use tailgate, lockable bed cover, and a built-in cargo bed beverage cooler. Any adventure you can imagine, Santa Cruz delivers. It's also packed with available tech like Bose premium audio and Hyundai Digital Key, which lets you unlock the door with just your phone. Pair all that with available H-Track all-wheel drive, and it's unlike anything on the road or off it. And don't forget, like every Hyundai, it's backed by America's best warranty and includes up to 3 years of complimentary maintenance. Finding more first. It's your journey in the first ever Hyundai Santa Cruz.
Brook, I was going to ask you about your facial expressions because there were two different plays this year. There was the Kenyon Martin Jr. dunk, and then there's something with Harden where Harden threw the ball through your legs. And both times it was like they were nice plays, but your facial expression actually overshadowed what actually happened on the play. Is that on purpose? Like, how did that come to be?
They were both intentional, and I'm trying to win games and everything, but I'm just trying to have fun too. And so the Kenyon Martin Jr., it was just a natural response. Like I get it. He dunked on me bad. I accept it was a great play. But then him flexing at me like he was supposed to put the fear of God in me. I was like, I immediately responded like, oh no, like I have a lot of things to be more afraid of than getting dunked on.
Theatrics and thespians.
Theatrics and thespians. You two both. Clinically speaking, you both are masters of deflection. I would say that. I'm just going to say that about both of you. Robin, I have a question for you because Tommy and I were talking earlier just about all the different sort of teammates that I've had in my 15 years in the league. Are there any? Because I get asked this all the time. Like, who's the best teammate you ever had? Who's the worst teammate you ever have? Silly questions like that. But have there been any teammates that you've had whose sort of real life persona was the exact opposite of what their reputation was?
That's a good question because there's been a lot of guys I thought I wouldn't get along with. Like somebody this year when the Wizards picked up Alex Len. It's like, oh my God, I hate that guy. We've been occasionally starting centers and reserve centers, and we've just gone at each other's necks. And I was, oh my God, I hate that guy. He's such a jackass. And we picked him up, and he's just lovely. He's a peach, So I have a lot. I think I have a decent number of examples like that. But somebody who's the complete opposite of what was advertised. I know we have the title for the podcast now. JJ Redick, Old Man in the Three, episode 127. Alex Len is a jackass. If that's not clickbait, I don't know what is. Sometimes it's one-sided, but he said he communicated the same thing to me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which was kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with Alex Len as a peach. That's what I thought you were going to go with.
That's not going to get those clicks, man.
I was going to bring up Rajon Rondo because you hear everywhere that like he's such a tough guy in the locker room and such a cancer. I found him to be the exact opposite. He's very outspoken, but I really loved. I adored playing with Rajon, and I think everybody in the locker room would attest to that.
This isn't the case 100% of the time, but in my experience, that a lot of the guys that people write about or people talk about as being bad guys or bad teammates, when you talk to their teammates, they're like, oh no, he's the best. I love that guy. So
for sure.
What was your guys' first impression of Giannis?
Before I met him, I just noticed how quiet he was, how single-minded he seemed on the court.
I've always had nothing but good things to say about Giannis. He's world class, one of the best basketball players in the world, but an even better person. Like there's nothing bad you can say about him. I do remember one of the first times I played him in Brooklyn, he blocked my shot so hard. And this was like must have been like his first or second year. So I guess I didn't read the scouting report that night or didn't really pay attention to, but I mean, obviously with his length and everything and his athleticism, I was just going up for like a routine layup, or I turned to my left shoulder, like right pivot to go up. And he came in and blocked my shot so hard and pinned it against the backboard in Brooklyn. I was like shocked. Like the ball went out of bounds somehow, and I turned around and I was like, how did you block me? How did you block my shot that hard? And so one of the first things I asked him when I got signed in Milwaukee was, do you remember this play? Like it literally like stuck in my mind. Like it was just violent. And he was like, yeah, I remember that. But yeah, that's my guy.
Robin, what do you mean by single-minded?
It seemed like he seemed like the Terminator on the court. I know that's an overused cliche, but he seemed like completely focused on doing his job on the basketball court.
As if being a theatric and a thespian wasn't for him. It wasn't about that for him. It wasn't about the entertainment. Yeah. No, I mean,
I was going to ask, so this is sort of the opposite side of this thing, but I was reading you guys used to do a lot of theater productions when you were younger. If you were putting together a play and you could only cast NBA players and you need like 4 or 5 in the cast, who do you think has the like charisma? Take the two of you out of it. You're just a director. Who, from like a personality standpoint, are you like, I want this person. I don't even know what the part is. I just want them in the play.
Kyle O'Quinn's the first person I think of.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
That's a good question. I had a dream similar to that, where there was some kind of NBA theater program.
You had a dream?
In New York, yes. I forget who. I know LeBron ended up being in the program, but I forget who else was in it.
Was LeBron any good? I haven't seen Space Jam 2.
I don't think we hadn't put it on yet. It was just the start of the program. I think we were putting on Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Was I there?
You were not there.
I played Lieutenant Schrank in West Side Story in high school.
That's amazing.
West Side Story is coming. They're making a new movie of it coming out.
Yeah, I saw that. I showed my niece my niece's the original with Natalie Wood, and it actually worked out well because I didn't know this, but my older niece, she's a sophomore in high school, which I can't believe now, but they had just read Romeo and Juliet her freshman year during school, so it was good timing to show that to her. And they really enjoyed it. And then I told them, I was like, yeah, I had a part in this in high school. I think it was junior year. I played Lieutenant Schrank. And then we watched the movie, and they were like, Brooke, Lieutenant Schrank didn't do anything. He didn't sing. He barely had any lines. Why are you bragging about this? Why did you show us this 2.5 hour movie and like the guy's in it for maybe 5 minutes?
Oh my God. Before we let you guys go, you guys are actually the first 2 guys we've had from the Bucks 2019-2020 team on the show since the bubble. And I just want to kind of get your perspective, your take, your sort of version of what happened after or right before Game 5 of Round 1 against the Orlando Magic, when you guys staged a walkout and all the other teams followed suit. So, sort of just take us through the decision to not go out for warmups, to not play the game, and then the subsequent, 12 to 24 hours when everybody that was left in the bubble was meeting in a conference room.
It happened very organically, unfortunately, obviously, but it was obviously something that had been percolating a few days since the incidents in question happened, and so I remember coming. When did you arrive at games, Robin? Because I usually got to the game on the last bus later.
Ever since I learned there was a last bus, I always wanted to be on the last bus. And I'm never going back from the last bus.
But yeah, I remember showing up in the locker room and just it was there were people in the locker room that were definitely distraught. Like we had some coaches who were arguing a bit. I remember, I think Darv Ham like threw a whiteboard, one of the dry erase boards that we write plays on and everything. Like threw that, and I just remember people being frustrated, visibly full of anger, and I was obviously in game mode, so I didn't know what was really going on. I didn't know if it had something to do with basketball or something like that. But, I was quickly filled in. And then we just, the catalyst of this all was George Hill, I guess. Or not necessarily the catalyst, but the one that brought it up to us. And he didn't feel right. And he explained to us that he didn't feel like it was right to play a basketball game right now. There was so much more going on in the world, something wrong. That was the last thing on his mind. And, he thought it was important to let that be known. And I don't think he realized that it was going to spin out the way it did. But he did what was important to him. And we talked. We talked to each other. We all talked. We had a meeting, and we came to the conclusion that, things aren't right. We want to stand up for these people who don't have a voice, and we wanted to stand beside George. Sterling Brown had obviously gone through some injustices when he was in Milwaukee as well, and so this was something very close to him. And so we all agreed upon kind of one by one going around the room. We're asking each other, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And we all fell in line, like, this is something important, and, we don't feel like the most important thing in the world right now is playing a basketball game. And so after we came to that conclusion, it was maybe, I don't know, like 30 minutes on the clock, or I remember seeing video of the Magic being out warming up. So maybe it was like 20 something on the clock or 15 minutes on the clock or something like that. But that was at that point that we sent someone either to their locker room or to a court to let them know that we were or boycotting the game, I think was the term we used. What was the term you wanted to use, Robin?
I wanted to use.
Okay, you muted yourself. Okay, you're done. But we let them know that we were boycotting the game. And then we went back into the locker room, and we talked amongst each other, like, what can we do from this point? What do we do from this point? How can we as a group make a difference?
We spoke with Landry Shamet, who was there with the Clippers last fall. And, I think for everyone in America, emotions were extremely high all summer long. And being in the bubble, I was only there 6 weeks, basically. Your emotions are high. You're so concerned with everything going on outside of the bubble, whether it was the social justice protests, COVID, whatever it may be. And, to watch another black man, Jacob Blake, get shot by police, it was crazy. And so I appreciate you, sharing that story and sharing that with our listeners and viewers. You guys have been a ton of fun. If there's anything you guys want to close with to each other, by all means, please.
This was very therapeutic. I think we should schedule this for next week again.
I guess we're going to have to pay JJ, right? It's turn into a therapy session.
It's okay. We can all afford it. We're white collar.
$800 an hour, guys. $800 an hour. I don't take insurance. It's just $800 cash an hour. All right. All right. We appreciate you guys. Brook, Robin, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.